Hey, welcome everybody to the Open Gum Hack Night. Woo! You can see through the skylight that it's snowing. Thank you everybody for trudging through the weather to get here. So we are going to have a pretty cool event tonight. We're going to hear from Aldertrack. Has everyone heard of Aldertrack before? Yes. Raise your hands. All right. Steven, you've heard of Aldertrack before?
I'm one of their 4,000 daily newsletter subscribers.
All right. So we're going to hear from Jim up here in the front and a little bit about that. But before we do, we like to first do random introductions. Everybody kind of goes to the room and says who they are and why they're here. And then we'll have an open floor for announcements. If anybody, is that myself?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Christopher is also recording everything you do and say, so you know. We all might die. That also might happen. Like one fell swoop, like open government is no more. Anyway, so we'll do the announcements, the introductions. There's food, by the way, for those of you who maybe are just sitting here. There should be some pizza and salad left. Anything else before we dive into it? Oh, I always like to do this. Raise your hand if this is your first hack night. Hey, welcome all the new people. Hey. We have an orientation for you, so you will be indoctrinated by Christopher here on the ways of civic technology. And Christopher mentioned, for those of you who don't know, the bathrooms are down this hall or that hall. It's just kind of like over there. I should also say this. Please put your plates and trash away over here when you're done with it. And also, don't go in like the work area. Like this is an office. So like that guy's working over there. So don't bug them. Stay here, in there, and in the cafeteria.
Who bought the food?
Huh?
Who bought the food?
Oh, who bought the food? That's always a good question. Oh yeah, we did. So Datamade did. Yay! Very welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the introductions, and then we'll proceed because this will be a good event. So I'll start with myself. I am Derek Eater. I'm a partner at Datamade. I like to make stuff with open data. You want to go next?
Hello, my name is Christopher Whitaker. I'm a civic technology consultant and the local Code for America. I am the regional coordinator for Code for America.
Hi everyone, I'm Jimm Dispensa. I'm founder of Aldertrack and I work at Chicago Public Schools.
Let's go like this.
Gino Bernardi, freelance JavaScript developer.
Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a software developer interested in technology for urban sustainability.
It's Ben, I'm a JavaScript developer and I like pizza. So
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm a data scientist. This is my first time here. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but it was cool and I wanted to kind of give back to the community, so I'm here.
I'm Brian Stelling, I'm a software developer at Spotlight.
Nick Bailey, I'm a software developer.
Hey everyone, I'm Paul. I work here at Braintree and I'm volunteer to help out tonight. So if anybody needs anything, feel free to ask me. I'd probably tell you good things.
I'm Nick, my friend at Braintree.
Eric Vincent, data janitor at
I'm Josh Gila, Open Data Consultant. I work with Cook County government on their open data, and I also facilitate the education breakout groups.
Jackson Cotney, software developer.
Hi, I'm Troy Craig. I'm a partner at
Should we go maybe down to this first row?
My name's St. Edisol, and I'm
I'm Steve Rickett, I'm a writer, producer, and amazed participant in the second war.
I'm Mark Maybaum. I work for Maybaum.
My name is Justin Berg, I work for an ad shop in Analytics. My name is Justin Manley, I'm a student at the University of Chicago.
I'm Guillermo Rojas, I'm a starter in software development. Hi, I'm Ali. I love
Hi, my name is Rose Frier.
I am Carly Felser. I'm Stewart's provider for software and smart contracts.
My name is Eric Culberson. I am a policy researcher and freelance writer.
Jeff Orphead, I do think the job is working for the state of Illinois Commerce Commission.
I'm Marjorie Priest. I do iteration management, analysis, design, user experience, and I'm currently also volunteering for Sweet Garcia's campaign for mayor. See me if you want buttons.
I'm Louis Gardner. I'm a student, entrepreneur, and at the South Spot Growth Resources.
My name is Adam Garza. I'm currently a student at college today. I decided to focus on international business.
Hi, I'm Doug Stepnica. I'm particularly interested to see what Aldertrack has to say because I've been spending a lot of time recently volunteering my time for second board candidate Steve Nicotakis.
I'm Martin. I'm an urban transportation planner.
Paul Mack, I work in software integrations, digital data.
I'm Radha. I take the education programs and computations institute at University of Chicago, and I'm interested in using data for education.
Hi, I'm Sarah Brady. I work for the Illinois Campaign for Political Reform.
Hi, James Evans. I'm public policy director for the program.
Hi, my name is Claire Thompson. My background is urban planning, and I'm a fellow with USCPA.
I'm James.
Hey, there's learn more and I'm Jesse. I work at Old Custom Product Manager, I'm attorney.
My name is Phil Meadow. I'm a software developer and data scientist. I do both podcasting
I'm Matt Schumann, first Open Government actor. I don't know the name, but that's first time here. And I work in economic development consulting.
I'm Jai. I work for the Illinois General Assembly.
Well, my name is Kenny White, and I work with Matt at the same time. I'm Derek Burke. I'm a grad student in sociology at Northwestern.
My name is Paul, and I'm a legal person interested in learning.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sellers. I work with data in the realm of education.
I'm Sanders from Chicago, with data regarding localized biographies.
Jim Sharka, I do investment research and software development, and when I'm not doing that, I'm on the
My name is Tim Dearbrand. My background is financial services and I work in economic development and work with early stage growth.
I'm David Melton. I'm executive director for the Illinois Campaign for Political Reform and specifically campaign finance reform, and I'm a retired IT attorney.
I am John Kent. I live in the second ward and still trying to figure out
That. I also live in the second ward. I work at UIC's Institute for Autism.
I'm John Arnold. I study Greek books at Treasurer College, and I'm here to
I'm Arson. I'm a software engineer, software developer.
I am Mary Kuhlman from Canada for jobs and new hiring usually in Chicago.
My name is Tom Schenck. I'm the chief data officer for the city of Chicago.
I am the Aldertrack on
David was software architect at SCA Group, very interested in data and co-ops, co-facilitator of our pension reform breakout group, and also working with a group in my office on analyzing business licenses.
My name is Stephen Vance, transportation planner and city government button pusher.
I'm George Russ, I'm a marketing science manager at Critical Mass, and I mostly geek out with Tableau, but I can
I like the database when I start to speak about the cat on track.
You're going to begin as an interaction designer in the University of Chicago and team that builds
I'm Nick Bader. I'm a researcher at Jimm University of Chicago. During my day job, I do research in child and family welfare policy in cooperation with different nonprofits and city agencies. I'm also doing a bit of law programming right now, so we'll learn about that.
I'm Sarah Sayevsky. I'm a graduate student at the University of Chicago. Hey, I'm Erin. I'm also a grad student in public policy at the University of Chicago. Hi, I'm Scarlett Swordlow. I am also a graduate student in public policy at the University of Chicago.
My name is Randy. I'm old. That's enough.
My name is Greg Newman. I'm the defendant editor of the Chicago Sun-Times. Finally getting one very simple things because I wanted to say thank you for helping us figure out how many times that work at a street club.
That's right. That story went up. I haven't spread it yet.
It's online.
All right.
Bye.
I am Natalie Watson. I'm the bike activist instead streets coordinator.
My name is Nancy Sherman. I worked at Northeastern Illinois as a linguistics instructor and also at Truman College as an ESL teacher. And I'm also involved with Evanston Streets Alive and bike activism in Evanston.
I'm Bonnie. I'm always for junkies. I also work with CTA.
I'm Bobo. I'm both the undergraduate students. I'm a big in science. I don't think I'm not the way. I guess my point of view.
My name is Clerk. I was going to cover I'm just going to say my in Chicago.
You miss anybody?
Jim Dispensa for the Chicago Street Bar. I'm Chris. I'm a PhD student in Chicago studying math. I'm Oscar. I'm a welfare administrator.
And for those of you standing over, there's some seats up here, and then I think there's a few ones first, so feel free to grab a seat. Did you miss everybody? I think we got everybody. All right, awesome. Great, so moving on to announcements. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share with this group? It could be open up civic tech related stuff, it could be news, it could be you got a job opening, all that kind of stuff. This guy.
So the Smart Chicago Collaborative is hiring. Our former administrative assistant, Sonia Marziano, got promoted. She's now a program associate running the Civic User Tester Group, which means that we now have an opening. So if you know anybody who's interested in joining Smart Chicago Collaborative, we would really like to talk to you. We tweeted it out earlier on our Twitter account. It's probably easier to find than the long URL that the trust provides us, and then we'll be putting in our own blog later.
Are there announcements?
Yes, Chicago Headline Club, the Chicago Chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists, has a open government conference in March 14th, which is Saturday just before Sunshine Week. It's incredibly cheap. I think it's at.
Is it Foyer Fest? Is that what you're talking about?
You can find it, yes, we found it. And they're at headlineclub.org or foiaillinois.org. You can find out how to register. There may also be time to get a panel together if you want to evangelize about something. And I can probably hook you up if that's what you're interested in.
Cool. And for those of you who don't know what FOIA is, it's the way to get data out of government when they don't release it. You can ask them for it. They'll have to give it to you. Other announcements? Yeah.
Thanks. I'm Brian Selly. I'm starting a Pebble Watch, smartwatch development group called Pebble Jive. It's on Meetup, so if anyone's interested, be grappling, 5 5 watches at the thing. You don't have to hold one. It'll be cool. So, Pebble. Oh, it's a smartwatch that pairs with your phone. You get like notifications for like emails and texts and calls and stuff. You can do smartwatchy things like.
Is this you?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Other announcements? Rose?
Hey everybody, I was in a peer session at the boot camp earlier today, and I learned about just some of the facelifts that the U.S. Digital Service website just got in terms of the multiple different categories that you can apply to if you'd like to work on a civic hacking project that also brings efficiency to the government. You might be able to apply to do that. So I think that's a website. It's written right now. It's not like a short link. But if you're interested in perhaps pursuing an opportunity either in energy, I believe, security, they don't have a social services fund yet.
You're on it.
I'm on it. You should really check it out because it first started with healthcare and now it's really branched out to many different topics that affect citizens.
I think you can do as short as a month.
Is that
Sorry,
right?
you can do it as short as a month.
Yeah. So like a month or like a permanent like stay. I don't know like how permanent is permanent, but you should totally check it out. If you have some flexibility, you're just kind of jump on top of it.
Would you like to move to DC, or is it? Do they have offices all over?
You may have to go to DC. But I think we should check it out.
Yeah, I think 18F, which is like another kind of innovation like tech team inside of government that just started up in the last year, they have a Chicago office. I think someone from 18F has been here before too.
Yeah, Chicago office, Denver, Philly, DC.
Right. So they're going to where the talent is, as opposed to making a move to DC. Not if there's anything wrong with DC. Any other announcements? I got a quick one. It's snowing outside, so this website that we made a while ago is running clear streets. So this is its 4th winter. We tracked probably like 40 snowstorms at this point with this app. So it basically takes all the data from the city of Chicago's cloud tracker, which I will bring up here. And we basically figure out where the plows went and draw the lines and shift to show you where what streets the plows visited. So, maybe they don't like me talking about the cloud tracker. Okay, so yeah, so this is the cities and this is ours. So it's the same data, but sort of presented in a different, I think more useful way. Yeah, anyways, check it out. I was on WBZ earlier talking about this, and yeah, some people still haven't had their streets plowed yet. I can say that the mayor's house, like his street, did not get plowed with any preferential treatment. I looked, and it was his street was plowed this yesterday, just like everybody else's who got plowed around that time. So yeah.
Just to plug this, I actually use this data to call and support my complaint because my daughter's school and the area around it was not plowed and all the buses were stuck and the principals were shoveling, and so it got things moving because I had actual data to back it up and show where other schools were plowed or other areas were,
right.
And they got things moving. So thank you.
Yeah, you will. Awesome. And then you get sometimes you guys did an article about talking about Burke.
Yeah, 5 times.
So his street got plowed. Okay, so I want to read
that. Main article.
Well, hey, that's totally an awesome segue because now we're going to talk about the aldermanic and citywide municipal election. Jimm's going to talk in a minute. Do you have your slides all queued up? Do you want to get that going?
Yeah.
Oh, cool, awesome. So I'll just set this up a little bit. So do you guys know there's actually an election? We just had one in November, I know. There's another one. It's in February 24th, right? Yeah. It's the citywide election, right? And this is, I was talking to Forrest and Eric about this on the way to get the pizza today, and I was actually thinking so it's the election that has it's for just the city of Chicago. So it's got the fewest number of people voting for it. It's not the same as a national or midterm election. But I actually think that it has the most influence over your daily lives, right? So your alderman and your mayor have much more control over your daily lives than, say, your elected representatives from, like, Congress or even the president. So despite all that, nobody votes in these municipal elections. So I would just pause. I really I just wanted to get the word out more about people voting and participating in this election, because it actually matters, right? You can actually have a say in what goes on, because I mean, these like aldermen are elected or not based on like margins of like a couple hundred votes, right? So talking about one vote actually mattering, it actually does really matter in this case. So Jimm and his colleagues at Aldertrack, you've been tracking the aldermanic election since 2007, is that right?
Yeah.
So Jimm knows a ton about sort of Chicago politics, and he's also dug around and found a lot of different data about all this stuff. So it seemed like it's the right time and also the right venue to have.
You don't get 50% plus one vote in your aldermanic or mayoral election, then you're going to the runoff, where even fewer people vote. I'll tell you briefly that in the month leading up to start renewing Aldertrack again, I was taking a couple of hours each night and learning R, the programming language. And then I switched to spending like 5 hours a night working on the Chicago politics. And both are, as you might expect, really difficult to understand. But there's a lot of power in both, and they're both sort of sometimes coherent and sometimes not so coherent. So I'll tell you that. I'll also tell you that Aldertrack is this, we refer to it as a quadrennial hobby vertical news service, because we bring it up every 4 years and then we put it to sleep, and it's not our day job, so it's a hobby, and it focuses just on politics. And we like to think it's political news, particularly news that's not covered so well by major media. Back in '06, it was just a blog that I ran by myself, and what I learned was that it's really hard to generate any money at all. And when it's hard to generate money with a blog, it's hard to sustain it even as a hobby. So then back in September of 2010, my new partner then, Mike Fouché, and I connected with the Chicago News Cooperative. Does anybody remember the Chicago News Cooperative? I know some people do. So this was a really great endeavor, small journalism, which was affiliated with the New York Times. So on a certain day of the week, if you bought the New York Times, you'd see a whole Chicago section in the back, which Mick Dumke, Dan Mihalopoulos, Jim Kirk, really great Chicago journalism people doing really great news. And and folded it up as planned after the elections. And the lesson learned there was, not long after we folded up Aldertrack as a part of Chicago News Cooperative. It was technically not called Aldertrack, but was called Early and Often, which is now owned by the Sun-Times, which bought Chicago News Cooperative. Long story short is, we learned that even the traditional news organizations, at least this is our opinion, are having a rough go at getting local political news right. And we're not sure, we have some theories as to why that is, and I'll probably talk about them a little bit. Okay, jump to August 2014. Mike and I again partner with another sort of editor-writer, Ramsey Cannon. Some of you might know, he's written for Chicagoans, a couple of other people. And all along the way, it's sort of the same problem. We feel like local media outlets are not doing a great job covering local politics beyond the mayor's race. I mean, they do that pretty well. We also feel like government data about candidates leading up to important elections is living in these places with bad UI and sort of hard to get at, and it's all over the place. So we sort of decided, like, we're going to do local politics coverage really well, and we're going to provide it in a simple format. It's like digestible, and so we launched it up again. And we don't want to be called journalists, because we feel very strongly that we're working with news, but we're not journalists. And I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by that. Okay, let's go. Right? Okay. Just a quick view of tools that we like, we've managed to launch Aldertrack with a really small amount of money, and that's due in large part to all of the wonderful web services that we're using. So, we use WordPress. Of course, we do a lot of all of our daily emails with MailChimp. We do some webinars, and we use Twitter. And so if you're not familiar with any of these, you can talk to me after. By the way, it all rolls up into Slack. How many people are familiar with Slack? This is really worth checking out if you haven't, because we love it. And then we use this open workspace collaborative coalition on Superior, which is quite nice when we need to get together for face-to-face meetings. Tools we don't love but use anyway, you can see them all in the middle there. I don't know what to say. I sort of, I might be the only person who's really good at Visio, and I can't stop using it, even though I don't want it in my life anymore. I put the Board of Elections website on there because it's pretty useful. I mean, all the data is there and it's updated really frequently. It's just that I don't think the people who designed that were really thinking about how to get data about candidates and elections to people quickly and easily, because it's not so quick and it's not so easy. And then tools we avoid, we actually started a print version of Aldertrack that I'll talk about in a minute. Really didn't work out very well at all. We don't think Facebook is useful at all, particularly for reaching small sort of niche audiences. And we don't use the phone, and we don't drive cars, and we do drink coffee, but we don't do these things all at once. Here's a quick glance at our sales. So if you don't know, Aldertrack is a free daily email with some news aggregation, and we're also doing our own polls now with the election coming up, and we're doing video interviews with candidates. So we're doing a lot that's free, but then we also have this racing forum, which is about a 78-page PDF, updated daily. You get it for $10. And if you could have bought it last October, you could buy it tomorrow. It's still just $10. And we add contribution data, endorsement data. We just add a lot of information and pull it all together so you can consume it and use it as a reference. I've seen a lot of people print it out and use highlighters. So the sales, as you might expect, spiked right when we launched. And that next big spike is when candidates filed their nomination papers. If you've never seen that, it's a really great Chicago political ritual where people line up starting at 6 in the morning because they want the first position on the ballot. And then with an hour to go at the end of the candidate nomination filing window, people line up again because they want the last position on the ballot, right? There's some data that suggests there's a little bump there if you're first or last. Okay, and then this is what I want to talk about, and then we'll just jump right into questions. So these are the new lessons we're learning this third go-around. The first is the audience for Chicago politics isn't as big as you might think. And we feel like we've learned this in part because of our early office experience in 2007, and now with our Twitter account and our emails. We really don't think that the audience, people who really care about Chicago politics, is much bigger than 6,000 people. Might seem like a lot, but I had always assumed that everybody was interested in Chicago politics. So, I guess the lesson there is know your audience before you try to sell to them. Number two, politics junkies are more interested in raw data and info and less interested in reporting and analysis. And we've talked to these folks, and they're really smart. They don't learn very much from the long articles in the newspaper about what's new. If anything, they're making that news. So what we find they are interested in is up-to-the-minute information and data that they can take and apply, to their own chess moves. I like to think of it they know all the great chess openings and all the great chess moves. They just want to be sure they know where the pieces are, and they'll make their moves based on that. Number three, it takes a lot of effort and inside knowledge to produce quality product for junkies. That's just, it's like a fact of life. You have to talk to these folks, and you have to allow them a platform to tell you, either in broadcast form or directly on the DM, like what they know to be true or what they feel is true and what they're willing to share and what they're not. It's really fun. Number 4, traditional advertising doesn't do much to increase penetration among junkies. And when I say junkies, I just mean any small niche audience as far as I'm concerned. We tried some, we experimented with some Twitter advertising, some Facebook advertising, and some other, our ads on other news media outlet blogs. And we just didn't see it driving penetration or purchases of our product in anywhere near the fashion where other people mentioning us on Twitter, however, like we did see some correlations. The more people were referencing us on social media, the more people were choosing to buy the form. That wasn't true in traditional advertising. Talk about Facebook. Number 6, no matter how simple the purchase process, there will always be problems, and you should solve them quickly because people get upset when their low resolution, browser doesn't allow them to hit the purchase button or hit it twice and they buy it twice. We thought we had a handle on that. We prepared for it really well, but we still had some problems. As a medium for small runs, print is dead. I think we're a small example of this, but it's really expensive to print Aldertrack. We did the racing form and print form and distributed them to like 35 different neighborhood dive bars. You can still go online and find those bars, and you'll probably still find the print version of Aldertrack there because nobody was buying them. And so this was just a theory that we had that people would really long for the printed copy. Now, I will say a lot of our consumers tell us that, oh, I love to print it out and take it with me on the car. So I think maybe the news there is give them something they can print, but don't expect them to go to like Quindy's and buy, or the L&L on Belmont and Clark, which is a great place. Nothing is harder than keeping it, best news comes from great engaged readers. Talked about that. Nothing is harder than keeping it simple. We struggle with this even today. We want to get our consumers to the data as quickly as possible because we know they lead hectic lives and they're consuming lots of other bits of information from lots of other sources. They don't expect to spend more than a few minutes diving into Aldertrack and jumping back out. I talked about exposure on other media being overrated. Video, it doesn't get many eyeballs, but it makes you seem very professional. And that not only goes for Aldertrack, but I think some of the candidates themselves, once they appear even on like a 3-minute video interview, you start to put you start to understand who that candidate is as a person, as opposed to just reading about their name. And this is particularly true for candidates from the South Side and the West Side who are getting no coverage whatsoever. I mean, they're having a hard time even getting their names out, let alone somebody who's willing to give them a few minutes in a professional studio with some professional quality video. Did this disappear? Okay, got it. Then the next point is that professional do-it-yourself video, if you don't already know this, is here, and it's really affordable, and you should do it whenever you can, because all of our videos are running on 2 iPhones with tripods and a lavalier mic. It's like 1080p, and we've had nothing but great success. The people we interview, when they see the product, they always say, I can't believe that. I was sitting there looking at an iPhone that really looked like professional quality stuff. Aldertrack and DNA info aside, neighborhood political news is near zero as far as we can tell. And even DNA isn't covering large swaths of the neighborhoods, which is really too bad because the more we learn about some of the ward races on the South Side and on the West Side, the ones that aren't being covered, they're way more interesting than 43rd Ward, for example. I've read more articles in the dailies about the 43rd Ward, 10 times more articles than I've read about most of the others combined, and I think that's a shame. More open government data leads to more, not less, information arbitrage opportunities. And so we think about this a lot, information arbitrage. It's like if arbitrage is like the simultaneous purchase and sale of an asset at a profit because there's a difference in the price. And we think that's what politics is all about, particularly in this city. It's like if you know something that other people don't know and you think that you stand a lot to gain by that, that gives you a lot of influence. And especially when releasing that to others empowers them to make decisions that help you achieve your objectives. There's truth in there somewhere. And then the last point is talk to almost everyone, which is we try to spend as much time as we can talking to people, meeting with people, convincing people that it's in their best interest to help the interested leaders know what's going on in Chicago politics. And I think our challenge now is how do you sustain that when the election's over? Because as low as our voter turnout is in municipal elections, and it's pretty low, I think the interest level goes down even lower when it's like the year after the municipal election and the second year after the municipal election, and then we pick it back up like, oh, there's a municipal election coming up, in one more year. So what we're really trying to do now is think of some new news products and think of some new open data products that can help spread political information to neighborhoods and community organizations and special interests, because we find it like to be the best part of living in Chicago is we find this really rich Chicago political tradition, and we don't think that it's something we should not be reporting on. So I think that's it. Oh, I wanted to mention we're going to have first ever Aldertrack party somewhere on election night, and we want you all to come. We also want you to help us think about how we take the, I talked about the sort of bad UI that the Chicago Board of Elections has to display the election returns. Well, we'd like to think about how we've got all these screens, these digital TV screens in the bar that we're having the party at, and we'd like to think about how do we build like a middleware that just says, all right, I'm going to take it from this UI and display it on this UI, because there'll be a lot of, we think that we're going to attract a lot of campaign managers, and there are going to be people who want to celebrate, there's going to be people who want to commiserate, and we're hoping to bring them all together. So that's my wrap. I'd love to answer any questions, or if you got any reactions, burning issues.
I have a question. So you mentioned that the 43rd Ward is not as interesting, but has a lot of coverage. I mean, do you have so tell us about the wards that are the most interesting to you. That you have gotten a lot of. That haven't gotten a lot. Yeah. So or in general, which ones are the most interesting?
So the one that was a warning.
Don't talk about that one.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, there's an interesting race going on in the 9th Ward, and here's why. I've known the 9th Ward. It's like Pullman, really far south side. There's a community called Chesterfield. There's Altgeld Gardens in the 9th Ward, public housing development. And so you have this incumbent, Anthony Beal, who's been reelected a couple times, ran for Congress, didn't win that. And all of these interesting races, by the way, usually involve an incumbent who seems like they might not, get to 50%. We'll see. But in this case, you have somebody from the northern portion of the ward, which is like the Chesterfield community I spoke of, a guy named Michael LaFar. And then you have Harold Nooney Ward from the Altgeld Gardens housing, public housing, who's an admittedly former gang member who is doing a really good job with video talking about why people should not re-elect the incumbent and why they should elect him. And it's just, there's that neighborhood down there is really the reverse of Lincoln Park. It's fallen on really hard economic times. Jobs are very scarce, and they have some issues that local aldermen, as you referred to earlier, can really make an impact on a ward in a way that presidential or congressional elections can't. And then another interesting one on the 37th Ward, which is the far west side, you have an incumbent who's allied closely with the mayor, and you have a challenger who's allied closely with the CTU. And so the reason we think that one's interesting, and there are a number of other wards like this, it's because it's a little bit of a proxy fight, right? It's really, the mayor isn't running for re-election, nobody's electing the CTU. They're sort of at odds with each other, and it's playing out at various aldermanic levels with some new faces and some, faces that have been around for a long time. And then a lot of money flowing around too. So right about now, 2 or 3 weeks before an election, is when you start to see big money drops from various special interests who philosophically have a very clear view of how they want the city, to function, or the policies that they believe in. And so those are just two examples. Yeah.
What trends have you observed with respect to gender and how gender is sort of distributed throughout the races and paradigms?
I don't know if I can answer that, but I know that there is a group of women candidates for alderman called Women Against the Machine. So I think if you hashtag and search that, you'll actually find like these 12 women, all non-incumbents, so they're all challengers. And they're talking a lot about women's issues at a local level. And that's something new. We haven't seen that before. Also new this year is, I should let you know, I've totally missed out on the objections process. If any of you don't know, Chicago has this tradition where you say you're running for alderman, right? File all this paperwork, and then anybody off the street can come in and say, I object to this person running for alderman. And then all you have to do is say, like, he didn't do anything right. And then you go in front of a hearing officer, and the candidate has to come down and say, I did do it right. And here's my receipt. And attorneys get involved, and they spend a lot of money, and it's really belligerent sometimes. And anyway, I thought I'd mention that. That was pretty fun. Yeah.
You have also started posting photos of mailers.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Maybe the aldermen are sending to the list of voters that they purchase, I presume. But why are those interesting? Like,
yeah,
I already get 10 of them a week from one candidate.
Yeah.
That no.
My pictures don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious how people respond to seeing those mailers that they're not actually receiving themselves.
Well, the wonderful thing we think about our readers sharing the fact that I got this mailer, here's a scanned image of it, is before you wouldn't know that. Like, you would know it, the resident of the home, but you wouldn't be able to share it citywide with a group of shared interest, political watchers. It's also interesting because, if you're an incumbent and you've got 400,000 in your account and your challengers have like 10,000 each in their accounts, you typically don't see an incumbent spend any money on mailers. Maybe they'll do 1, 2, but the theory is as the frequency of those mailers occurs, and as those mailers may go negative on a person, which we call hit lit, if you get some hit lit, then it might be a sign that somebody's feeling uncomfortable with the competition, meaning they think it's close. Like, I gotta knock this person down with mailing after mailing. And I've asked a political consultant, don't you worry that voters are going to be like, I am so fed up with getting another mailer from this person, now I'm not going to vote for them. And they're like, no, the data doesn't support that theory at all. It's like the more mail you get in front of somebody, and the better, the more likely you are to vote for them. So.
Do any candidates have digital mailers that they don't actually mail out?
Well,
or ads?
we have seen, I know Michelle Smith in 43rd Ward, the challenger to 46th Ward incumbent, James Kapperman, a woman by the name of Amy Crawford, is doing Facebook ads. I know that political consultants are increasingly saying for the price point for putting ads, I guess it's when you take a post and you like boost it somehow and pay per click, all of that, because that's just the trend that they're seeing. So yes, people are doing Facebook ads mostly. Yeah. Cool.
So Aldertrack, Daily Whale, Citizen, the moves that Craig's are making are about trying to sell to a very target elite audience for whom the news is something that they need in order to do their business today.
Yeah.
I know it's not your job to figure it out, not exactly what you're trying to do right now, but where does the public interest news come in? Like, how do you think about the fact that your audience is not public?
Right.
It's a really small group of folks who aren't, who maybe have a really kind of orthogonal set of interests to wanting to know about, wanting to know some of the things that the public might know. Is there a way that you see this squared, or is it just that we think we're going to see more of this where what the news is just going to become more and more about
niche
news?
Yeah. We used to think more about that, and I don't know that we think about it very much. Now we seem firmly settled in this world where if all we ever get are like political news type people or political beasts, you know, reading our news, then that means we don't have to explain things that we know they already know. It makes our jobs easier, and it helps us get to other information. It's really hard to do news and explain it. I mean, you see it when I read a news article. I'm always like, yeah, like I know, and I don't know who's doing it really anymore, aside from the newspapers. We're becoming much more fragmented. I don't know if we're ever getting back to that general interest news reader. Are there any here tonight? All right. Other questions? Yeah.
I got a robocall attacking the Alderman. Do you track those? Because I would vote against anybody that robocall.
Yeah, I got one. I use phone tag, which is a voicemail transcription. So I don't answer my phone, it goes to voicemail. They transcribe it and email it to me. And it was like, did you know that second Ward Alderman challenger Alex Patterson used a fake policeman in an ad? And so we posted that, you know, as soon as we got it. That's like an example of something we're really interested in. Yeah, if you don't know, there was a candidate, I don't know if it's a big sin, but one of her opponents is trying to make it to be like this felony crime. It is apparently a felony to impersonate a police officer. And so she's in an ad, one of her mailers, like she's talking to, you know, what appears to be a policeman, but if you look really close, he's got a different color navy blue hat on, and it's not a police issue thing. And so yeah, we track those. Robocalls are huge, by the way. I think for as little as less than 4 cents a call. Imagine how many people, you know, you can reach.
What app was that? What was the name of the app?
Phone tag. Mine? Yeah, phone tag. That's a good one. Yeah.
Are you seeing any activity on the referenda that are going to be on the city ballot on the 24th of small donor referenda?
Oh, the small donor referenda? Yeah. No, I thought you were referring to the elected representative school board, which is if you live in one of 37 different wards, that's going to appear on the ballot. It's totally an advisory question because we're not California. We don't let voters decide things directly. But I don't know about that one, the small donor one. Is that municipal?
That was the one that the mayor decided to use to knock off with.
Oh, right. So you can only have 3 advisory referenda on the municipal ballot, and all the people in the city who did not want the voters to be asked whether they want an elected representative school board came up with these 3 like sort of not monumental questions that are actually going to appear citywide. But then the proponents of the elected school board said, well, fine, we can go ward to ward. So they had to get their organizations to go to the voters in each ward and submit it ward by ward, which is the way around the city act.
But I would like to make a pitch for the small donor.
Okay, so you're saying there's one that's good. Okay, I will research that because. Yeah.
I was just wondering, to get back to the question on public information for the public.
Yeah.
Are you, because I haven't seen this yet, do you feel like you are putting information out there that the average voter would benefit from knowing and they're not getting in the news now? Or is this more like information about the horse race that's just like sort of background for people involved in the process?
Well, I think that the average voter, especially if they were to buy the $10 form, because the form itself lets you go to your ward and it lets you see pictures of who's running, the names of who's running, the Facebook page of who's running, the Twitter account, the LinkedIn profile, their campaign contribution funds. So it's the best resource you can have, even as a voter generally not informed in the details of politics. I think where you maybe lose out as a general interest news consumer is when you have to, like, if you're following our Twitter feed just to get information about like a single candidate, you're going to be reading a lot of stuff that you're like, what? I don't even know what they're talking about. And then you might get to something you're interested in. So there's something in there for the generalist. It's more of a specialist.
So you don't really feel it's a way of like a public service in terms of unearthing information that could be hidden. It's more like packaging information.
Yeah, I think it's more like packaging information. And I think I would argue that we do a much better job providing people with basic information about who's running than even the Board of Elections. I think that's fair.
So it's not about dates. I mean, a lot of it would just be like writing. You need somebody to write and to lay it out.
Yeah. In brief little news segments. All right, a couple more questions?
Yeah, sure. So I was involved in the last mayoral election, and I have my own opinions about what elections are, and that their PR shows and facts do not matter within the elections themselves whatsoever. However, the facts that you're generally reporting on are the ones that are that matter, and that's one of the big disconnects between the general public and what's going on, because there is no connection. These politicians are involved in a drag down, knockout fight, and they're doing anything they can possibly think of to win. I guess that editorializing aside, have you found that you guys are one of the only folks out there that are doing this, and that you've been able to connect some of the few services that are out there that are trying to translate all that into some narrative?
Yeah, I think we are locally. There are others. Somebody mentioned Daily Whale, which Daily Whale, to my knowledge, is focusing more on like a little bit of the minutiae of what's going on in various different commissions and the zoning board of appeals. Whereas we're staying focused on the elections for now. It is interesting though to see the extent to which new, mostly online, national political news organizations are starting to, and this is also true of special interest groups like ALEC, for example, are starting to understand the influence and power of state and local and county officials on policy nationwide. Now, again, you have to be willing to live in a fragmented world, but like we read the Aldertrack version in San Francisco and New York and Washington, D.C., because we're just as not just as interested. After Chicago political news and before national news, we're interested in what's going on in other big cities. And I would argue that for people who really care about big city issues, you have more to learn by looking at what's going on in Philadelphia than you are going to learn from like MSNBC or CNN or Politico. All the action, I think, real policy action that happens at the state and local level. So did that answer the question? All right, how about one more right here?
So you said that more open data creates more opportunities for data arbitrage.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
What do you think the causes are, or who's doing data arbitrage, and do you see it as a good thing?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good question. Maybe one good one to end on. So I'll use Stephen Vance over there, my good friend, who's texting. I was explaining to somebody, there was somebody who was asking me, like, there's got to be a way for me to, like, talk about how crummy of a job my opponent is doing, right? This is a candidate, right? And they're like, I know that he's not contributing in the way that he should as an elected, alderman. And the person became aware of the fact that now with like Chicago Cityscape, and this is also true of any other OpenGov app, that you can get at data quickly and compare it to the services that are occurring in other wards and make a claim. Now, as it turns out, this person that I was dealing with was going up against an incumbent who was already using his service, the Chicago Cityscape, right? And was like ready with the data. So they were having okay, if you're going to say that I'm doing a comparatively poor job of dealing with abandoned vehicles, you haven't seen my abandoned property abatement rate. And I was like, I haven't seen that outside of like 1 or 2 wards. And I think that it's just a matter of time before people start turning to data to both defend themselves and to spring new attack information and stuff like that. The data's clear. He's clearly not doing a good job, and let's move on. I think you're going to see that kind of thing more. All right, well, it's a pleasure, and I'll stick around after, so thanks a lot.
Let's move on to the civic hacking portion of the evening. Let's see here. All right, excellent. So we are now going to disperse and go into some of these other rooms and work on stuff. Before we do, we have a bunch of different breakout groups that we've been running for the last 6 to 7 months now. And each of those is run by a specific topic facilitator. So we're going to run down that list. And if none of that seems interesting to you, you're also welcome to start your own and just sort of announce that to the groups, and people can kind of vote with their feet. So we'll start with sort of the learning groups that have kind of been going on for a while now. These are sort of groups that are about learning new skills or sort of getting oriented with working with data and technology. So we'll start with Christopher's Civic Hacking 101.
Hello. So if this is your first time here, if you're unfamiliar with open data, open source, or all of this is very new to you and you're confused, don't worry. We explain all the jargon in the Civic Hacking 101 class. That's going to be in 111th North Canal. That's the room down the hall with a big wooden door that kind of looks like a boardroom.
It's not down the street, it's down the hall.
Down the hall. It lasts about 15 minutes. It's designed just to be a quick orientation so you can bounce around to some of the other groups.
Cool, awesome. I think Renee said that Renee's not here, and none of the code playing folks are here, right? Okay, we'll move on. And Matt Gee is also not here. Machine Learning Study Group, James.
Switch to Machine Learning Study Group. Use multi-linear regression, gradient descent, stuff like that. Everybody's welcome to come to the lecture, then we're going to do a little bit of coding portion where we sort of cut off into advanced and beginner. It's unfortunate that the code class isn't here, but if anybody likes beginners in Python and can teach them lots of cool stuff, cultivate similar to
Mob programming, Nick.
Great. So, if you're like me and you're learning language, you don't enjoy programming alone, which is the saddest thing of all. You're eating Doritos. Nobody likes that. That's from the past. You don't do that. So what mob programming is we grab up the breakout rooms. So come find me afterwards if you're interested, and we'll figure out how your basic group is. We'll find the room. What we do is we grab one screen, one keyboard, one mouse, and we pick one problem that we're going to work on. So we're going to follow the interests of the group. Recently, we've been working in R, and we've been starting at a pretty beginner level. But you should know that when we get together, we're all focusing on the same problem. We rotate the keyboard. Everybody gets a chance to work in R. You're comfortable with it, entering commands. Say like, hey, this data set. What if we, could we answer this question with this data? You need to know absolutely nothing because the entire group will help you in terms of what's the answer, how to answer your questions. So if this sounds really loud, so if that sounds interesting, come by and we'll figure out if we can get a good session going that meets those with interest. Also, if you're interested in running a mob programming session, and looking for other folks to just collaboratively work on a problem, also come. Because I've been doing a lot of R, love to do Excel. We can get more nonprofits in the room because that's kind of denominator for us. Also, I think that a lot of people would be really interested in learning Python. So this is like from the very beginning. It's very enjoyable and social, and this can be a springboard to going out of the web and grabbing your back Doritos and learning on your own with other resources. So come find me and we'll figure out what fun things to do.
All right, awesome, thank you. Transportation, Stephen.
We're going to continue what we started last week, which was discussing our 3 groups, which were, I believe, research, programming and development, and, oh gosh, third one. Oh, there were 2 kind of research groups. One was about researching, John, please help me. What were you guys talking about? And then the other one, What? Economic development, and then, developing like how we are going to now analyze the data to depict how bicycling conditions are such in certain areas of Chicago. So we're going to keep going with that. We're going to regroup, or we're going to come together as a big group, and then break up into our little 3 groups again. And then next week, I'll go over this in our meeting, but this is really terrible.
Just so we to reiterate, it's for Slow Roll Chicago, right?
Yes.
That's good. The good thing to point out.
Right. So last week we published a map. It's super basic. We want to expand on it. Like 20 people came last week, and I think we're making a lot of progress. Just in having a lot of people really interested in helping out our research problem and a little bit of our development programming problem or issue. I don't want to say the problem.
Seriously, this is like dramatic ice. Okay, moving on. Education. Josh, you got something?
So last week we had some ideas around looking at individual individualized education programs, IEPs. So there's some people looking at that. We also are looking for new ideas and also starting to look at parent engagement opportunities and kind of what's existing around that and potential ways to help improve that. Also, if anyone wants to talk about community data or ask questions about that, you can come join also.
Cool. Moving on. The environment. Scott?
Hi. So our group has really been focused on issues with water in our town, the river, the lake, and rainfall, right? Maybe snowmelt. We're working on a few things. Predictive model in R that's trying to predict based on rainfall when and where there will be sewage dumped into the river. Also working on some, and that's R, like I said. We've got some data visualizations happening with beach closings. So doing that with Angular and high charts and I don't know, whatever else fun shiny toys we can find. And there's some folks just talking about policy and how it all comes together. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, or you have an idea for something else pertaining to urban sustainability, love to chat.
Awesome. Rose, social service delivery.
Hey everybody, so today we're going to be picking up where we sort of left off last week around Google Analytics and tracking victims. We also talked a little bit last week about writing a gem, but I don't know, so that's or translating words to numbers from Spanish words. So just a shout out on that. Also, if you have any experience working with iBrains, we're just going to embedding Everly into other sites that might be interested in community. So that's also something I want to shout out for. And also, I heard there were lots of public policy students here, and I'm a former public policy student, hoping that's something. If you know anything about the set of Illinois, thanks.
Awesome. Modeling pension reform group.
So we have a new governor in Springfield who's throwing around all these ideas about how to fix the pension system. Will they work? Are they possible? Do they make it better? Do they make it worse? We're working on a couple of applications to explain the Illinois pension crisis, throw in different scenarios. And we have a micro model that allows you to look at what that does to you as a pensioner or maybe your daughter's English teacher. That's written in JavaScript and Angular front into that. Some UI elements and also some unit testing to validate the long run. And then we have a macro model within R, which is explaining at the whole state level what these things do. So very interesting what's going on, and I think we're going to speak out and grab focus on that. That'll be us.
Okay, great. So that's it for all the listed groups. Does anybody want to start their own group? Okay. Oh wait, yes.
I just want to start a conversation. I'm not a tech person, I'm a nonprofit person, a social justice person, and I'm really interested in building bridges between the nonprofit
example, the prices right now around funding for daycare. I feel like that's an opportunity for folks who know how to manipulate data, who know how to make maps, who know how to do that stuff, to really step in for those of us who are doing the work on the ground. I'm also interested in doing micro volunteering projects where tech folks come out to nonprofit organizations who get really niche skills like over a lunch hour about how we can be incorporating technology into our work in nonprofit. So I just want to start that conversation today. If anyone's interested, we should approach.
Awesome. I think one last thing before we break out. Claire, you didn't mention anything about the awesome success of your app so far. My building doesn't recycle. How many reports? Sorry for calling you out.
Like 785 reports from different levels that are run.
As of yesterday afternoon, we had about 900 reports at 750 locations.
Apparently it's a problem, and you guys are gonna help solve. Awesome.
So the internet front for a few more weeks, 1,000 people are gonna use it, and then what's next? What do you?
Maybe we're still discussing that. We'd like to take it to the city or Alderman or some people and say here are the reports in your ward, you learn to sit like them.
Yeah.
Working right now on breaking the reports down by ward.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Just a question out of curiosity, because it was always the question. Of those 750 buildings, like how many have the site?
Oh, they're all reports.
They're all reports. Yeah. You only take.
All right, well, I think that's it. So everyone feel free to go disperse and do stuff. Thanks again to Jimm for presenting, and Brittany for hosting, and yay, good stuff. That's it. Good night.